Hello, travelers, and welcome back to Map Maven. We've been gone for a couple weeks because we had things on Tuesdays and my computer crashed twice, but we are back. And today we're going to be continuing a little bit of what we were doing 2 weeks ago. As you can see, there's already a little bit of a map here where we are exploring summer camp shenanigans, and we're going to be developing this world. As always, we have some handy tools that we're going to be using today. We've got Roll20, we've got Sirenscape, and we have Photoshop and maps by tools by the wonderful Star Raven. So they make all of our streams possible. Let's talk about them. Roll20 is the perfect online site for sharing your campaign visuals and materials and rulebook sets. Once you have everything you need on Roll20, the only thing you're going to want is a little bit of audio ambiance to complete the mood. And that's where Sirenscape comes in. Sirenscape, as we're hearing right now, with one click can transport you to all sorts of immersive environments. For instance, let's step back from this busy dockside environment into the chill interior of the Map Maven cartography shop. Isn't that lovely? One click. Other than that, we also have our lovely tool set from Star Raven on DeviantArt. I will link to them in the chat, in the YouTube description, so find our description there. But Star Raven created this entire beautiful set of calligraphy brushes that is perfect for your calligrapher needs. You can get trees, you can get a bunch of stuff. I don't know why it doesn't want to show me any of them. Oh, because it's at the eraser tool. It's fine, we'll figure it out later. But now that we have everything we have for today, let's go ahead and get making a map. So, as I said, last time we were streaming, we were working on this map, which is this very cool, it doesn't want to zoom in. There we go. Very cool concept we were putting together for the coolest summer camp, the summer camp that's in every single murder mystery or murder mystery summer kid book that you read when you were younger, or Nancy Drew novel, or just any sort of adventure camp. So I really love how this map was going, and I'd love to finish it, so I wanted to keep working on it today. I'll talk a little bit about the work we've done so far, and then obviously we've got a lot more we can still add on to this map. And outside of that, we might even, once we finish fiddling with this one, we might even like do a couple revamps of it, try a different cut, like, throw one big change on it and say, well, okay, well, what if it wasn't like this? What if it was like this? And see what we changed to make the map suit that need. So let's take a look at what we got going on here. So we haven't even named anything yet. So what we've got here is, I wanted to do this cool reclusive summer camp. It's up near the mountains. There's a bunch of like wide forests around. Of course, there are a bunch of, I decided, horseback riding trails, because I feel like any really fun summer camp has like some sort of like hiking trails or horseback riding trails. So that's what these purple lines are, leading out and around. Obviously we have like the one road in that leads up to this beautiful lake. Also several conflicts of the story, because I was almost looking at it like, this is an adventure location, but it's also the setting in my mind of like a summer camp story. And there's a couple of major conflicts here that we've set up that maybe your players or your readers would get to explore. And one is this enormous like landowner ranch that they've been clear cutting forest and buying up property. And of course there's a property battle between them and the summer camp, and they're trying to buy up the land that the summer camp is on. And then the other big thing we have is of course, don't go over in those woods, don't go over in those mountains area of camp, which is over here, which we have this really tall cliff face that I love the idea of it just being this flat, almost like El Capitan cliff face overlooking the lake that is very ominous and like casts a shadow. But there's, rumors of ghosts appearing on the top of it, or like people falling to their death mysteriously. I mean, that would be such a great, if that was a murder mystery, that would be my immediate go-to, is like, okay, you just talked to someone in camp, and then 10 minutes later, when there's absolutely no time in which they would have been able to get there, then they're reported to like fall from the top of the mountain. So there's clearly been a murder, but there's no way they could have been there. That'd be interesting. My favorite thing about murder mysteries is it's just setting up an impossible scenario and then showing how it was possible. It works every time. Just being like, there's no way this could have happened, and then being like, well, actually, it did happen that way. Yeah, so I think first thing I'm going to do as I'm just getting into this, I want to just take a look at what... There's a couple little errors on the map right now, of just little things that aren't quite where they're supposed to be. So I want to fix that up. You see how the rivers aren't quite connected here. I think at one point I clicked the wrong layer and shifted something I shouldn't have. Forgive me. It just happens sometimes. Honestly, I'm wondering if there's a way I can fix it by just shifting a whole layer back. I kind of feel like if I shift the mountain layer a little bit and then touch up the rivers, it should be fine. So let's take a look at what we got here. So labels, land, that's like the big land mass. We don't want that. I really need to, maybe that's something I'll do today. I'll show you how I restructure this document to stop driving me nuts every time I open it. Okay, so we got this. Let's take our selection tool. Yeah, okay, so I feel like, let's move it over. So obviously we can like fill it in on the sides there. I feel like this whole thing needs to be shifted down. Does that look right? I think that looks pretty right. Is that kind of what I was dealing with before though? And that looks pretty close. So maybe it just does need to live right about there. Yeah, I'll just leave that there. Take these rivers and I'll touch those up. Just make this a little bit smaller and we'll zoom in, of course. Let me get that book out of here. Get out of here. And then we're gonna zoom in and I'm just gonna touch it up so it nudges up against the lake. And then I'm gonna erase over here. Ooh, there's a little tree hiding out under there, so I'm gonna also go ahead and erase that tree. So now let's see if there's any still weird stuff. No, I think that looks pretty good. So that we fixed whatever the shifting problem was. Okay, so there's still a lot of areas to play with. I want there to be 1 or 2 more landmarks on the lake for sure. I want there to be 1 or 2 more landmarks in here. The biggest thing I think about when I'm building a map, especially on this scale, or on any scale really, but one of the essential questions I ask, especially if you're building a map for a D&D game, is this icon indicating there is adventure potential here? If there's nothing to do at a location, don't put things there. It's going to save you a lot of time. It might feel less realistic because, of course, in the real world, there are places on the map that there's not much going on. There's towns you pass through where there's nothing to do. But if you're running a game where it's all about adventure, and again, depending on what your pace of game is, my biggest tip is like, and one of the biggest things I've learned is if you don't plan there to be something happening at this location, the location just shouldn't exist. And that doesn't have to be anything major. It might just be a wayside town or something like that. But if it's just a wayside town, then why do you need a map of it? You know, if it's just something that they're going to pass through and nothing important's going to happen there, why spend 5 hours making a map? So, I don't know. It's something I always consider. And also another big question is like, does having a map of this location help my players? Will they need to know how far apart things are for this town to function? Probably not. So you probably don't need to do it. Let me see. So I like the idea of, I feel like we have enough stuff in the middle of camp, because what we have down here is we've got like the entrance gate, which is this cool, like, it looks like a ranch gate. It also kind of looks like a, what's it called? A Tory gate, which I'm okay with it kind of looking like both. There's this big, like, event space right on the water of the lake. It's got the little flags. Here's more like the main crop of buildings being used, right? This is probably the mess hall, some storage facilities, maybe some equipment areas, some crafting halls, that sort of thing. And then this is our big stable. We can zoom in even more. This is our little horse stable. This is why we have like the trails leading right up to it. This is our two different camp tent area, not tents, I guess it would be cabins. Like this is the two cabin areas, and I wanted them separated because I like the idea of there being any summer camp that has like, you're in this team and that one's on that team. That's just like ripe for drama. Also, what a great idea, like if you're trying to set like a campaign here as an overall arc for the campaign being like, well, it's this team of adventurers, which is in this set of cabins versus that squadron of teens or whoever, which is in that set of cabins. Yeah, I think that's just, as I said, always, if you're going to put it in there, make sure it's an opportunity for causing adventure. I like the idea. I feel like in terms of stuff with the camp, I like the idea of adding on some icons onto the hiking trails to indicate that something is at that point, right? Like the big mother tree or some other weird thing. Actually, I love the idea of there being like some big, huge tree that's like a stopping point on the trail. So I'm going to go ahead and add one of those. This is going to be on our, this is going to be in cartography. Right? That's what, there's all our trails. That's our road. Let me rename that so I remember it is. Probably not going to need an equator line on this. Our icons actually might be in, no, they're not in there. Where are those icons living? They're just labels? Ah, yes, here they are. Okay, so this is all this stuff. So let's just go ahead and, that's our actual labels. This is why I need to rename them, because they're all called labels, and they shouldn't be, because they're not all labels. Okay, I like the idea of there being some big ol' thing. So let's get down to our trees. These are all pine trees. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a pine tree. Let's grab, you know what, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do, because since we're doing some not random generated things, but oh, I can't use that though. I want to have things on the map that are sort of more random areas of inspiration. So I think I'm gonna grab from my Map Maven thing that random deck of cards that I built for creating like locations. And since this is a bit of a mystical place, I'm going to use my mystical deck. Did it do it? It might not do it. Come on. Because I can then randomly select from there what I want it to be, and that'll help give us inspiration. And we can always change stuff if we don't like it. There we go. Cool. Okay. Next. And then I'm gonna just scoot this over. Whoop. You can still see it, that's fine. Alright, come on. Let me select you at the corner. There we go. And then I'm gonna take this guy and put it right here. Random image picker. So let's say this is, we're going to go with the tree, but we're going to say it's maybe mystical in a slightly different way. So we're going to see what this gives us. Ooh, a planar rift. Now, how much that is actually a planar rift, or is maybe the rumors about it, make that make sense for your world, but in my world it's going to be a cool planar rift tree that, you know, that people say it has that. So maybe it's got to be a little bit, maybe it's like just a teleportation tree that'll randomly send you somewhere else on the trails. I like the idea of that because that's not super dangerous of it being like a whole planar rift that's going to send your adventurers off world, but maybe it's just like a teleporting tree that will randomly send your players randomly to a different trail, which could also be an interesting way of why they end up on this side of the river, which there was where we had said maybe the forbidden trails are. So let's go ahead and grab our tree. Where are our trees? That's tree blocks. I want a single tree. Ooh, jungle trees. Okay. Keep going up. Pine tree. I guess if it is like a pine forest, it probably should be like maybe one big pine tree. Okay, and we'll soup this up a little bit. We're gonna make him look a little fancy. Let's shift it so it's black. I don't think it needs to be that big. Let's make it like, how's it look at 100? That's too small. Let's make it 200. Yeah, okay, that's big and impressive. And I like the idea of it being there. Should be a little farther away. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's like this convergence point of the path. I think that makes sense. And we'll soup that up in a minute. I like the idea of that. Let's get some other inspiration. Blessed land. Okay, so something sacred on the paths. This could be, there's a lot of options for this. It doesn't necessarily have to be like something sacred. Maybe it's like a particularly beautiful, revered site for the campers. And that's something that they protect where it's, has a more symbolic value. So it doesn't, again, if you want it to be literally holy, it could be. But let's say it's like a, sacred site. I like the idea of it being some sort of post or mound or rock that every camper who's ever attended this place makes some sort of, not pilgrimage necessarily, but like makes a journey here on their last day and like writes a wish or leaves a token of their time at camp. I think that's cool, and I think that would also make sense why it is looked at as important. Hey, thanks for subscribing with Prime. Appreciate you. What could this be? I think like a cool like rock formation would be interesting. I got it. Okay, so it's like a rock formation, right? But it's like cored out in the middle. So you can walk underneath it. So it's like a formation of rocks, and underneath it, and people have like hung and painted stuff to the inside. So it's just a bunch of little tokens and talismans hanging down from the top of the cave, which I think would be really cool. So let's go ahead and figure out how to build that. I think we could start with like a little hill bug. Hey, Aaron, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Long time no see. I was like, Cervera. I wonder if that's them. Yeah, Iggy is great. He's not in the room. Iggy is my dog, for those of you who don't know. He's doing good. He's still a grumpy little guy who loves stealing food whenever he can find it. So he's living his best life. But right now he is resting somewhere on a couch, so he's not in this very hot office. If I take maybe this hill, let's see what it looks like if I make it like, yeah, I think that's some sort of base. We're probably going to end up doing this in different shapes. And this one I think should be like over here. So it's being encroached upon by this ranch. I like the idea of, honestly, I think I'm just going to build it. I don't like the idea of putting it with anything else. So let me try this to get some like random shapes. Slightly larger, maybe. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm happy. I hope you're doing well too. I will, because they're not on the stream, I won't say their names, but me and a bunch of our other friends from work who used to work right around that area, were just talking about you the other day, and we were like, oh, we should see if Aaron wants to like grab drinks or something. So like, text us. We'd totally go get drinks or, I don't know, coffee or something if you were interested in hanging out. I like that shape. There we go. And then we're going to go to just a regular brush, make that a lot smaller. I like this kind of like jagged, kind of got rid of the jaggedness. Yeah, whenever you're free. I also have no idea what you've been up to lately. I was like, I don't even know where you're working because like when we first worked together, I think it was like was one of your like first gigs out of school, I think maybe this comes around here. That's like the tunnel portion there. I'll fix this with an eraser tool. I feel like, you know, speak of the devil, it sounds like my dog wants to come in. 1 second, I'm going to let him in the room. Come on, bud. Come on in. Here he is, everyone. Welcome to the stream. This is my small dog, Iggy. He is a little naughty, but we love him. Dang! Yes, please. That's so exciting. They're going to be thrilled when I tell them that you popped in on stream and said hello. They're going to freak out. Here he is. Say hi to Aaron. Look, isn't he so expressive? Oh, he mad. There, I'll move your bed over so you can cozy up right there. Go on. There he goes. Okay. Maybe this would look better if I just filled in the whole shape. He says hello. Doesn't he look like such a grumpy old man now? He's such a grumpy old man. My dog is 10 or 11. I adopted him when he was a little bit older, so I don't know his exact age. But he's always been a little bit of a grumpy Gus. He has like a little snaggle tooth that makes him look a little angry all the time. He's very nice. But it's just funny. I like to joke that I adopted him on the last day of a discount adoption weekend, and he was the last dog left. And it's a joke, but it's also just mainly true because I didn't realize it was like sometimes adoption centers will do like discount weekends to encourage people to adopt pets. And I had been going to this place for a couple days, like meeting different dogs and seeing different animals that were there. And he was actually not one of the ones I had been meeting and, you know, seeing, getting to know when I had been going the last couple times. And I didn't realize they were having a big adoption drive. So I went in on like a Friday and like met a bunch of dogs and then went back on a Sunday and all the dogs I had met were gone. But Iggy was still there and I met him and he was so sweet. They said they thought he was having trouble getting attention because he had a little snarly snaggletooth face. But I love him and everyone else loves it. His little snaggletooth is one of his best features in my opinion. Okay, that looks like a cool rock formation. Yeah, that looks great, honestly, and I don't even know if I want to make it bigger than it is. I kind of like it being that size. I might push it. Maybe it's like a little bit off the path. Nah, I feel like if enough people are going there every year, it's probably near a path. But I do like putting it on this side, so it's kind of surrounded by it. It just looks like a nice shape. Maybe one more thing on here. Exotic flora. Okay. That could be so many things. I like the idea again, because we're stepping between fantasy and reality here, I'm going to go with it sort of being on the borderline of stuff. Maybe it's just like a weird, invasive, exotic plant that's slowly encroaching through the forest. That's really dangerous. And I like the idea of it being in the forest. I did say I was going to put it in the forest, but I could also see it being like an algae bloom in the lake. I think that could be interesting, like an invasive algae bloom that's causing problems. But maybe it's something that's kind of coming out from the ranch land. That would be interesting. And maybe it's just sort of like discoloring the land, or like, I think the easiest way to do this would be with, I guess it would be to actually add a different like layer of plant life and just make it a different color. Something that sticks out really well against the green. Let me do this and let me get back down to really need, I'm saying it every time, I really need to reorganize this. It's fine. Okay. Let's take this. I'm gonna take this guy. It's gonna create a new level. I'm gonna copy layer style, paste layer style. I'm gonna change the color overlay to, I don't know, red? Honestly, red is like a really striking color. Maybe it was like a dark red. Okay, let's see what that looks like if I take a paintbrush and grab some weird, I have some like brush plants. Where is it? I think I passed them. Little trees, marsh grass. I just take this and make it maybe, ooh, yeah, that's startling. I like that. I know it. Oh, thanks. That's what it's all about. I hope if you're enjoying the thought process, I'm just trying to, it's not a tutorial for sure. It's just chatting and sharing things. But I think that's the coolest thing, is like learning how other map makers think, so you can learn how to make your process easier. So I think if I do this, you know what, before I get carried away, let me just invasive plants. Who knows exactly what these invasive plants do? They're bad. They're bad plants. They're nasty, and I love the idea of them maybe coming out from the property, but they don't know that. It's coming from like a secret area of the property. It's like being bred in this area of the forest and then spreading that way. Okay, what's the most efficient way for me to do this? It might be for me to take actually the marsh block and then erase it in portions. Let's see how that works. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just gonna end up, yeah, that's just not gonna look good. I feel like I've gotta just erase it, do it with smaller ones. Undo. Which is gonna take maybe a little bit more time, but I just feel like I'm not gonna get the look I want if I do it in the big chunks. Just grab some jungle plants, put them at like 100? Is that too big? That's too big. Let's do it at 70. Not bad. Okay, and then I'm just gonna randomly place these, and I'm gonna keep adding in more. I do like the idea that this is not along a path, so maybe that's an adventure, is figuring out where this spread of plant life is coming from, and they have to go off route into the woods to find that out. Maybe it's coming in and corrupting all of this. Maybe coming down this way. It's encroaching on the sacred space. There's conflict there. And of course it's like messing with all the trees here. Oh, hello. Do you want to come back to my lap? Temporary pause for small dog. He's okay. Thank you. Let's grab a different plant shape. Put that also at 70. Just keep spreading these in. They look like almost like nasty little nettles. I like this shape. It doesn't look like a cozy tree or something. It looks very different from everything else that's going on. There's little clusters and clumps of them. Ooh, and I'll even have them kind of like spreading off the map this way. It's a threat, not just for the camp, but nature at large. Big cluster of them over here. Obviously, if you were to show this map to your players... Oh, what? You want to get down? Go on. There he goes. Goodbye, sir. You don't want to show them the source of the plants, but you would have this on your master map, probably. Okay, I think I just want like one more nasty plant, and then I think that's enough. Is that one? Do I already have that one? I already have that one. Oh my gosh, hi, it's so good to see you. Yeah, I started streaming, it was way after we met, but I hope you're doing well. I do remember you, of course. Unfortunately, I can't remember your name right now, but I remember meeting you and talking to you, and I remember I met your dad. I hope you've been doing well. Are you planning to go to, Comic-Con again this year? Look at that. Hi, Jordan. It's good to see you. I swear I'm not kidding. I was gonna guess something with a J, but I wouldn't have guessed the right name, and that would have been rude. It's very nice to see you, though. I remember it was very funny because you were saying you were gonna be so starstruck just in the panel. You were like, I couldn't ask a question. There's no way I could ask him a question. I thought that was very endearing. Well, I'm gonna be at this one, so if you ever get back to a con, there's also one thing that people need to remember. There's a lot of smaller cons out there too. I went to one in like Ontario. There's a bunch of little ones if you like want the con experience without having to get all the way down to Comic-Con in San Diego. I think that looks good. The invasive plant life. It's definitely spreading. Maybe there's also a threat of like, what if it gets to the water? Oh no. My campaigns are coming good. I think since I run a couple of professional D&D games, and those have been going really well. I finished one off. We closed the campaign, and they moved on to other things, other campaigns, and I have two that are still going, and they've been going really well. The players have both gotten out of the, what I like to say, not the starting level, but like the starting module of an adventure where there's the most track, right? Because often when I'm playing with new people and I've just gotten all their character info, there's a level of like, hey, this first quest is like a little bit more, there's a little bit more like, not rails, but like there's bounding, right? Like if you leave the town, you can, but you're completely abandoning anything I have planned. But during that time, that's when the players get to know each other, that's when the characters get to know each other, that's when I get to know what they want to do, and then I'm really excited because they both just got to the point in the game, both campaigns just got to a point where they closed off that finishing arc, and I was able to say, what do you want to do next? The whole world is open to you. Where do you want to go now that you know each other? So, very exciting. Cool, I think that looks good for the forest section up there, at least. I kind of want to do a couple more. I want to do some stuff in here, in the lake area, and then I want to put some stuff over here. But just because we already did some stuff, yeah. Reaching the end of the campaign, I feel like the biggest thing about it is just having an open conversation about we need to end this game. What is it? When can we end the game? We need to end it, and this is how many sessions we have to end it. Ooh, cursed land. This is one of my, I love the weird ones. I think we're definitely gonna put some cursed land in here, but it's a lake. We definitely got to do some sort of like Bermuda Triangle-esque thing where it's like anyone who tries to sail across this one portion of lake, their boat goes missing. There's a bunch of like missing camper canoes and like little skimmer boats and stuff that have just like sunk there, but nobody knows why. Definitely gonna do that. Okay, so in this case we're gonna have to make, I think the best symbol for that is like a boat graveyard, like a little sunken ship, even though you might not be able to see the ship from the surface. So I'm just gonna draw a ship. Let's see if I can draw a ship in an efficient amount of time. Also, I feel like it's gotta be like, oh, you know what it should be? It should be like anything in the shadow of the big mountain. That's like the no man's land. Anything that you'd never sail under the shadow of that mountain. That's such a cool visual because you can actually see that on top of the water. So I definitely got to put the boat like just kind of in this area. But you never want to sail under the shadow or something not good is going to happen. But I guess that means it would kind of move because it could possibly, I mean, at really like close to sunset, the shadow could possibly stretch across the entire lake. Yeah, right? Isn't that fun? I love the idea. Okay. Now to draw a little sunken sailboat. I feel like we got to do like, I need a new layer. First things first, got a new layer. And we're gonna go here, and I should probably layer all of these, but why would I make my life easier? Okay. So I think the easiest way to do it is create like that sort of shape of water first. We all know the Guillermo del Toro film. And then, what just happened? What just happened there? That's odd. And then I'm gonna like the prow of the ship. That is not what I meant that to look like. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to draw the prow of the ship first and then add the water because it's kind of hard to draw over top of it. Okay. Let's zoom in here. Got like just a nice arc. Nope. Perspective on that is wrong. Do that and then okay, there we go. Big broken line. It's a good thing I just did that bikini bottom map. That's definitely helping me do this. We're gonna shift the perspective on this once I finish drawing it. It's smaller. I think kind of adding in a line here would help. As well as one here. Like something on the prow of the... Yeah, that kind of makes it look a little bit more boat-like. Let's get a little eraser working here and zoom in even more. There we are. A little bit smaller. We want like half a pixel worth of... There we go. And then this, we're gonna make it look like jagged lines. Don't know the effect that that's creating, but we will figure it out. This is all by mouse. I have yet to, it's all, we can't even move it. It's all by mouse. Where's my, there it is. this basic mouse that I got from someone, just a lot of right and left clicking. It would be a lot easier with a pen, but I don't illustrate professionally, so I have yet to invest in something like that. Let me bounce back over to my pen tool here. I think I also want this smaller. This one's just going to be a little bit noodly. Oop. Okay. Let me just... I just got to erase all this. It's just not working for me. Oh, that actually looks a little bit better. And then if I took this and then... Nice. Okay. Okay. Hey, that worked better than anticipated. I'm going to take this and make it a little bit thicker. Just try and get that same effect on the other side. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. So now to make it look like that looks great. Honestly, I'm very happy with that. I'm going to be very nitpicky and zoom in here and get rid of this so it looks like more of a right angle, so the two areas aren't fusing together. And then I feel like I want it to be semi-sunken, but maybe that's not possible. Maybe it needs to be like the mark of something at the bottom of the water. It is. My wrist hurts by the end of this for sure. I have to be very careful not to like overstrain my wrist. I think maybe I just show it. Maybe it's not something on the top of the water. Maybe I just show this and then I draw like the other half of the ship over here, like it's broken. Yeah, that seems like a nice idea. Or like a broken, like just the prow of it. Let's make this a little bit bigger, maybe like 10, that's fine. And then this one I'm going to have it like an odd angle. General shape, I will fix it now, make it look a little bit better. And also make this actually fit to the side of the screen. Make this smaller. There we go. Ooh, okay. Yeah, maybe like darken that area of the water. That could be interesting. Because I guess the implication is that this is the thing at the bottom. Or at least one of, it's symbolic that there is a graveyard down there of some kind. But I like the idea of putting some sort of like dark cast to the water over top. There we go. Oop, undo. This. Here we go. That's pretty fine. Okay, now I just need to do the... Need to make that line thicker first to carve it away. I want that to come all the way back here. Let's fill that in a bunch so we have a lot of stuff to play with carving away. Fix that. And then I'll fill in a little bit here. this corner to make it look a separate layer. It's so funny how much it's like, oh, it's not working, and then I do one little click and I'm like, now it works. I don't know what the magic was of that particular movement, but that something about that fixed the problem I was having. Okay, let's zoom out. Ooh, ominous. Okay, I want to put something on the front of the ship too. Maybe it's just like a... So it already has that on the back. Maybe that's like the rudder. I do not know how to draw a rudder, and I'm not going to attempt to, but I will block in a little chunky black square. And then maybe like that. Oh, okay. I mean, that looks like something. I would buy that if you told me that was like some sort of mechanism for making the boat run. And then here I'm going to add on, what kind of masthead would it have? Or figurehead, I guess. What can I do abstractly also is another question. Yes, I do have a graphic novel published. Yeah, so this is, let me get it on screen here. This is the prequel comic for the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out earlier this year. It's called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, The Feast of the Moon. I wrote a short story for it alongside Jeremy Lambert, who wrote the main story in here. And essentially the main story, the longer section of it, covers the adventures before the movie of the 4 main thieves who have honor among them, and their time before the events of the movie. And then my short story covers the events of the paladin Zank and how exactly he came in possession, well, why he did and hid the Helm of Disjunction in the way he did in the Underdark. So it's the story of him from the time he obtains it through the time he hides it. So if you want a little bit of backstory on everyone's favorite paladin right now, he's in here, and I wrote about him. And you can see some of the beautiful art that's in here. Let me get to a section, and I'll give you like a quick, look at this. Look at this beautiful art. Woo! The art was by, the art on my section was by Guillermo Sana, and the art on the cover, as well as the first story, was by Ed, I did not work with them, so I'm not, Eduardo Figurado. So, yeah, but I'll look a little flip. Do a big, like, flip so you can see some of the, whoa. Yeah, so if you're hungry for more content on the D&D movie, this was a fun project. And I am going to be doing a signing at Comic-Con. My first ever comic book signing will be there. I'm going to be at the IDW booth on Thursday at 10:30 a.m. So if you're there, come say hi. I'd love to see it. That'd be wild to meet anyone who is like, I know you primarily from your D&D stream or something else. I think I'm just going to give this some weird little, like, just some weird little bubble shapes to imply it's something. Nice. Okay, that looks cool. So let me take that, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to shrink it. So it's a little bit less huge. I'm going to put it like right about here. And then let's think the best way to do, I think if we go back down into our cartography, maybe it might just be to do it actually down here, because this is over our ocean stuff. So if I take this, add a layer, and then I'm going to lower the opacity of the layer, let's say to 50 for now. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit that with a color overlay wherever I can find. Where is it? Where's color overlay? It's over here. FX. Yeah, color overlay, let's say that's going to be green, because that's kind of spooky to have like a green hue. Is it? Does that make sense? Maybe it's just gray. We'll figure it out. I might just leave it gray. But I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to reduce that hardness. Maybe even more. Maybe even a little bit bigger. So it's anything in the shadow of the mountain. So this area here would definitely be in the shadow of the mountain. And assuming this is in the, we're thinking too much, but assuming this is in like the northern hemisphere, shadows would cast slightly northward of the thing the majority of the time, because the sun loosely circles the equator. So, like that. That's a little big, so I'm probably going to reduce the size of that. I'm going to definitely do that right now as you watch. Let's take this. Yeah, great idea on the shadow thing, Jordan. I think that was a good, because I like this as like the icon, but we do need some sort of way to show this is the space that covers. And also it's slightly amorphous, so it does change throughout the day depending on where the shadow casts. I like the idea of it coming like that. Maybe tapering off. I'm gonna move the boat, so yeah, maybe it's like that's the main thing where it, like right before sunset when it's at its longest, that's like the longest it reaches. I think we can make it a little bit bigger though. And then let's get in there with our eraser tool, and it's naturally going underneath the landmass because this layer is underneath the landmass. I don't know if I like it green. Let's mess with this color overlay a little bit. We can't see any of it. If we just take it darker, does that? Ooh, honestly, yeah, that kind of works for me. Just kind of that darker hue. Yeah, okay. I like it a lot. Because it still fits, it honestly looks a lot like a shadow on the water. So I buy that. Okay, and let's put this like right, not that, we want to move this, like right in the middle there. Cool. It might actually, I feel like it could be a little bit more like here. Because otherwise it doesn't quite look like it's coming from, because that's the base of the mountain there. Ooh, I think I need to redraw that. Because I want it to cast more out. Let's redo that. Because it tapers from here. Take the eraser maybe. Because it got the nice flat top. It's going to be pretty square. Take it. Am I casting it too far north? I might just be casting it too far north. I need it to come like more that way. Okay. So it's going to come up like that. And we have that flat, obvious top, and then trail off. Ooh, yeah, that's convincing. Okay. And then we're going to move this up in there. Great. Okay, that looks great. Awesome. And I love that shadow effect. Now let's see what else we got on the lake. A blessed form. Okay, so this one's kind of similar to the other one that I have is for blessed, whereas essentially instead of it being like just a wholly natural space, it's like a wholly constructed space, which I guess the other one is like a rock, so it's like a natural formation. So this one is more like something that was created. Okay, I have an idea. I'm gonna have it be there. I had this idea last time, but I didn't complete it. I like there being some sort of lighthouse on these small islands here. And that's a cool idea of maybe the lighthouse, maybe it's burnt out, so it needs to be restored. It's not currently active, but there is this lighthouse that the light has some sort of, it creates like a safe haven. So if somebody was ever sailing across, it's like, oh, well, if you can light the lighthouse in time before the disaster happens, they won't be able, the dark, crazy thing won't be able to come out of the lake, depending on how fantasy you're going. Or maybe it's just like, you need a lighthouse to stay safe on the water. So let's go ahead and draw ourselves a little lighthouse. And I also love a lighthouse as a holy symbol, even in D&D, because there's something that's been around for so long, but it's still recognizable. So the idea of like a temple that's in a lighthouse, I think is very cool, especially if you have a god that is like the god of light or the goddess of light, I think is a very cool, like, oh, a lighthouse, perfect. Yeah, I think they're just a cool thing to connect with. Something more spiritual than just a practical purpose. And I think I just want to put it right here. So let's just, a little base of the lighthouse, and we can shrink it down once we finish drawing it, and then if you hit shift, it will keep your lines straight. But it can also sometimes do that. The concentration. With this music, it almost sounds like I'm in a heist sequence. I'm like trying to decode something. I feel like I just kind of want to do like a little... I'm going to definitely erase some of this once I finish drawing it. I think the idea of it maybe just being like a little... The proportions on this are off, but I will fix it. Okay. So we got this. Let's create this mound. Build it up a little bit more. Probably fill that in, honestly. I think this whole top section might be just the wrong size. Oh, maybe it just has that. It's like sort of flat. That looks a little bit better, actually. Okay. Let's make this eraser a little smaller, even smaller, and yet even smaller. Okay. too. Too much. Okay. I like the idea of there being some sort of like, gotta have the entrance down here, right? So. Erase parts of it. There we go. Zoom out on that. Yeah, it looks like a little lighthouse to me. It looks enough like a little lighthouse for our purposes. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like lighthouses I've seen in like high fantasy recently. I know that there was one in Critical Role in like Exandria. There's a lighthouse. I used one in one of my campaigns that it was like the goddess of light. Her temple was like a lighthouse right on the ocean, which is also how I was like, well, I feel like the goddess of light might also be associated with like navigation and just the sense of like dispelling mystery and like giving people certainty. The idea of like, oh, you can find your way through the darkness. Little lighthouse. I think I'm gonna push it a little farther down on the island, so it's not because this is not a huge island. Each of these squares I think is 1 mile, or each of these hexes is 1 mile, so it's not a huge space. Obviously everything is overflown, so we can see it and use it properly on the map. Okay, I want one more thing. Do I want one more thing in the lake? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna roll for one more thing, and if I don't feel like I have a place to put it in the lake, I'll put it on the land. But maybe it's just, I need something on the coast. And that's really what I want. I want something on the coast somewhere. So let's figure out. Ooh, well, we already have a dead zone. We already have a dead zone. I don't want to do a dead zone again. Let's do a different one. We also kind of already have ruins, but we can do something different with ruins, whereas I think like a dead zone is like, we literally already have like an area, a graveyard of death. But we could put a ruins, come back. We could put a ruins somewhere on the coast here. I like the idea of it actually being kind of down here because there's nothing on this part of the map. What could it be the ruins of though? I like the idea of it being something more complicated than it used to be like, oh, there's just a cabin there. I like the idea of like, there used to be some whole thing on this area of the lake that is no longer there. Maybe like a factory? I mean, it is in the mountains. It could have been like a quarry of some kind, and there was like like the mine factory was there. That's kind of interesting. And that puts something to do down in these mines. Yeah, let's say it's like an abandoned mine in this area. Let's draw an abandoned mine, I say casually. What does a mine even look like? Why do I say these things? Okay. And then we can have a little bit of road leading up that way, but we'll put the mine like right here on the water. We don't really, it doesn't need to actually look like a mine. I just need to figure out what would even begin to look like a mine. I mean, some sort of main building, probably long, low, and flat with like a stack or two for like steam. I don't know what they have at those, what they have at mines. I mean, obviously most of a mine is like a mine shaft, but I'm talking more like the processing building. Oh, they have those conveyor belts that like send rock up to process like coal. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Definitely need a new layer. I'm working on my eraser tool as usual. I tend to do that. I like working on the eraser tool even when I mean to draw things. Okay. start by making a building. I think that's going to be too tall. Okay. Sure. That's a shape. Do that and that, and then that's going to be the roof. I'm going to erase some stuff. I like the idea of there just being a really big, like they could have just big elephant doors on the front. I don't know if that's actually the term for these kind of doors, but those rolling doors you see like on the outside of like grocery stores for where the trucks come and like deliver everything. And then maybe here is the ramp. So if we do like another window thing here. Keep doing that. If you hit shift first, it connects a point to your next dot, which is not what I want it to do. So you have to click and then hit shift. Okay. And then we'll have these big conveyor belt things kind of going up and then that way. And I will fix the things that are overlapping. I'm just trying to get some sort of idea first. Let's put like a big stack here, like a big smokestack thing here. And we'll have that coming off the side of the building. Little chimneys. Oh, you know what? I'm also realizing this is a ruin, so we do have to have some things that are ruined about it. That one's kind of broken. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Nice. Okay. Great. Let's get here and start erasing some stuff. Smaller eraser. The eraser is my menace. I will spend like a whole minute being like, why am I not drawing anything? And then realize I have been just on the eraser tool the whole time. Or like completely ruin a sketch and like thank goodness for the undo button. Okay. We're going to get rid of that. Zoom in and we got to get rid of this a little bit. And this part. It's okay if we've got some weird wonky stuff because it's a ruin. So if it's a little wonky, that actually helps us sell that. I think things I can make wonky on here. I like the idea of maybe this door has been broken and like crumpled up. So this thing is like at a weird angle. There's stuff sort of piled up in there. Add, this ground here. Indicate the bottom of the building. Nice. And then this will just taper like that. Maybe there's some stuff on here, like rocks that were being brought up still. Cool. Okay. Maybe this part has been actually... We can take a bit out of this nice big straight line. We can take that and we can erase it so it looks like there's just part of the building has crumbled away. Make it a little bit bigger so we're not stressing ourselves out. Nice. And then I'm gonna cut off, I think, this part of the building there. I don't need that. Say that it's crumbled away over time. Get a jagged edge. Doesn't really look jagged enough. Let's make it like that. More obviously wrong. Great. Okay. I think I'm gonna add another. Maybe there's a hole here to show that there's a hole in the building. As if little critters have sort of like dug their way in over there. Just maybe fill in black, would that work? Kind of just looks like a bush. That's fine, it helps break up the texture. Zoom out. Okay, that looks cool and interesting and worth exploring. Hey, thanks for coming and joining us. I hope to see you next time. We'll be back here on Tuesday at 10. We're always here on Tuesday, or Tuesday at 7 p.m. so Pacific. But thanks for joining us, Jordan. See you next time. Hopefully, I hope you're doing well. Let's shrink this down a little bit. I think we just maybe put it right there. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and have the road go over to that. I got to get my road brush. And we got to get it the right size. I don't remember what size I was doing before. I want to guess something around 50. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. So let's say that they drive along the water. Why not? Okay, so then we've got the road leading off that way. We can have some sort of barricade on here. Nothing tells an adventurer where to go like a sign saying, "Do not enter." Let's go ahead and we'll just put, what's it look like? It's kind of like, on the wrong one. That'd be like sandbags, maybe? Sandbags. And like a big cross thing. Like... We're going to shrink this down too. Okay, yeah, I'm convinced by this. It does not need to be more complicated than that. I'm going to shrink it. Put it right there on the road. Awesome. Okay, now let's put some stuff up in here. Okay, let's get some random things. Wild magic. Okay. How can we make that? Do we need to make that align with anything else? I mean, we have a teleporting tree, so I feel like it doesn't really need to align with low magic. Wild magic. What could that be? Maybe like an optical illusion forest area? I like the idea of this area being somewhere you can get really easily lost. So maybe there's something about it that like voices are constantly being cast in different areas. People are constantly looking bigger. Things are looking farther away than they are. I think that's interesting. How can I... That might also be an overlay because it's more like an area than a particular source. Like it's not an icon. I mean, we might put an icon in there, but it's not going to be a specific thing. So let's go ahead and just get a above our land, just down here, land, whole thing, wild magic, sure, and then we're gonna put that down to 50, and then we're gonna get our same brush we had last time, make it a little bigger, make it a little softer, and I think it could just be here, like this weird little zigzag in the path. I think makes sense because it's the place where people get lost up through these mountains. So let's just kind of take it here. I like the idea of it kind of just being that area, and as long as you can like get to the river, you've made it out. Okay, let's get an eraser to make that look a little bit nicer. And let's go ahead and change the color on that. I like the idea of it maybe being like an orange. Orange is a weird color. Yeah. Oh, uh-oh. I did the wrong thing. I needed to hit OK. Okay. Awesome. That looks great. Now let's make an icon. Do we need an icon for this? What would that look like? I'm going to cheat on this one. I'm going to grab one of the weird magic icons that our lovely Star Raven has already made. Because they have some cool little fallen comet looking things. Nope. That looks kind of like, that's the Star Raven watermark. But it looks like a little magical creature. But here they are. So there's a lovely sea dragon if we want a little fallen star. I think that looks good. And put that up in this area. Create a new one. And I'll just put it like right there. It's an eraser, of course. Hey, boy. Okay. I think we can get away with that being... You know what I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do a couple effects on this so it looks a little bit thicker. So I'm going to, do that. Just add that stroke on. Too much. That looks okay. That helped. And then I'm also going to do an outer glow, and I'm going to make it glow the same sort of weird orange. actually. I don't know, what do we think? Because I kind of want it to pop out from the ore. Maybe pink? It's a weird color. Okay, yeah, I like that. Okay, great. That now has some sort of icon to show that there's something weird happening there. And maybe it was caused by some strange falling star. Why not? There could have been some sort of alien landing site. Okay, let's get... Honestly, I want like something down here. Let's get something down in that area. An arcane form. So this is, again, this is like an arcane structure. So... Oh, I mean... I immediately know what I want to do. I want it to be... there's very little thought process on this, but I want it to be just those stacks of rocks, but there's huge ones. It's almost like Stonehenge-esque, where it's like, how did they stack these rocks? But it's the more natural looking like pebble stack formations. And I want them down in this area, but maybe it's a thing where there's some like certain crystals worked in, and it's clear that like there's a resonance happening between them, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what it does, and it's definitely something that nobody else in the area knows what it does, but nobody disturbs it. Maybe it has something to do with whatever happened to the mine. Could be happening. Could be true. Yeah, so I want that to just be down here with a series of rocks. Okay, so what's the easiest way to do that? I think by doing a little bit of this. I want it bigger than that. Bigger than that. Too big. Let's take it back down to like right there. Okay. So this is going to take a little bit of doing, so I'm going to just create a little rock form, rock form, rock form. I'm wondering if I should just draw one and then build on it. I'll draw one and then I'm gonna place it, and then I'll draw another one based on where it is. Don't want that as my eraser. Gotta zoom in. That looks like pebbles. Okay, so let's, well, maybe I'll do them on a separate layer, actually, because I think that's going to be easier to like shift them and make them make sense. Let's do this with like a big square one. Just make a couple different layers and then we'll go through and shift them around. Big fat rock. This one's maybe got two different piles on it. Just one more, I think. And this one, it's an interesting shape I can do. Maybe it's like a fat on one end, skinny on the other kind of rock. That. And then there'll be like one little guy down there. And then yeah, that's some cool shapes. Okay, so let's get in there with the eraser tool. I love erasing stuff to create shapes. It's so satisfying. Just carve something out of a shape you already made. Okay. I'm gonna make this one. Okay, so now that we've got these carved out, let's zoom out. Those look great. Okay, so I want them like scattered across an area around this river bend, I think. Sort of, maybe just all right in this area where they kind of are, just smaller. So let's take this guy. Maybe these are representing like the biggest shapes that are there. These are the more monolithic ones. But there's a bunch of small ones all over the place. I feel like it should be more down there. It's kind of overlapping with the mountain a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't bother me. Cool. Actually, I lied. Oop. Move the land. I gotta lock my land. Cool. Yeah. That's interesting. I like that. Do I want any more spooky stuff in this area? I don't really think so. Let's roll one more time, and if we find inspiration in it, we'll include it. Otherwise, we'll just skip it. Let's see what we got. A cursed formation. Do we want to do something? I mean, we could put something at the top of the mountain. Yeah, what the heck? Let's do it. Let's say there's something up there that's cursed. But what could it be? What indeed could it be? It could just be some sort of monolith shape. We don't have any we have this interesting rock formation. We've got this that isn't really a form. We've got the tree. We've got the rock. I like the idea of it being some... You know what it could be? It could be some sort of like funeral pyre, or like a stake, like a witch, like somebody was burned at the stake up there. That's a little dark. Trigger warning, everybody. But yeah, let's say it's like some sort of stake that's still standing there on top of the mountain, and there's dares of like, go hang your flag from the top of the stake on the mountain and see blah blah blah. You know, dares that would happen at a summer camp with a cursed mountain. Oof. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm having a little bit of a headache, so I may have to call it short, but we'll see what we're doing. I'm definitely gonna get to a stopping point here. Not here, but like I will get to a stopping point at some point, probably in the next hour. Just want to let you guys know it's not going to be as long as normal. some sort of built-up pyre. I want it to look more constructed, but it's still worn down because it's old. We don't know. Nobody knows how old it is. But it's from the witch of the witch that used to live in this area. Oh, you know that's like the ghost story that everyone tells at camp. A little bit bigger than that. Maybe too big. We'll figure it out. Might have been better when it was solid, but I don't like it that thick. Let's shrink it. I'm a sucker for a witch on top of a hill. I've got so many witches on top of hills in my home games. Oh man. It's just like, I think they would like being up high so they can like look down on things. But I get the idea that there's like swamp witches and stuff. I really need to expand my repertoire of spooky casting folks. Maybe that's why this path, that's one of the things this path is built, because that's where the witch or the warlock, maybe it's a warlock at the top of the hill, the warlock that was like put to death here, it was like this was the path they walked up the mountain, and that's why the path exists. We'll just put that right there, I think. Awesome. Okay, I think we got enough cool, interesting, like little adventure hooks going on here. I'm really happy with that. Let's go ahead and expand it so we don't need to see that other part now. Let me take a drink of water while I think about what else I want to do here. Or what I can do to make this a finishing touches thing. Okay, well, I gotta add on my compass, so let me go ahead and do that. I have this beautiful pre-made stamp compass that I got from the DeviantArt set, the Ravenloft, or the Star Raven set. So I'm gonna drop this guy right in there. I'm gonna add, I think, a little bit of outer glow, more outer glow to him, so I can see him a little bit better. Nice. Maybe shrink him a little bit, move him up here. And now we get to name stuff. And what's great about this is, like, this is such a condensed, no, not condensed, contained. It's very self-contained. Like, all of, you could, and this is a pretty small area. All in all, this is only, if we're assuming these are a mile, hex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 miles across. Of course, you couldn't walk directly from one side of the map to the other because there's obstacles in the way. There's certain paths that are clearly meant for your characters to take. Sorry, had to burp a little bit. Been drinking a lot of water. So, 17 miles for a D&D party, assuming D&D and assuming normal walking pace of 3 miles about per hour, you could cross this whole thing within 8 hours, because I think the average D&D party can move about like 24 miles per day in 8 hours. That's not accounting for difficult terrain. But even so, we've talked about a lot of different things. So like, this is a pretty small area, but none of this stuff seems too up on top of each other, right? Like, the miles, there's several miles between any of the major locations. So this is a lot of adventuring material in a pretty small contained space. So this is, honestly, I'm really happy with this. If I ever choose to run a campaign in a summer camp setting, I might just use this map, or at least the base of it, and maybe add on, like, remove an icon or two, or add an icon or two. But this is like one of my favorite, like, location maps I've made, one of this scale that I've made so far, because it is so inspirational, because I can see all these different areas for adventure. But it's not just enough it's more than just one setting. Like, I could easily see myself running a whole, like, campaign in this world. Maybe not 1 through 20, but certainly, like, a solid, like, level 1 through middle tier campaign. I think there's easily enough material here for, like, 20, 30 sessions, maybe even 50. Like, you could get a decent amount of this, because if each one of these locations is like a mini adventure, right? Each one of them is a dungeon crawl or a puzzle or a thing, like, or an encounter of some kind, like a multi-encounter thing. I mean, for instance, like the mine, for sure that's a dungeon crawl. For sure you go into the abandoned mine and you can get down there and there's weird stuff down in the mine. Yeah. And I also like this because it's also very sandboxy, where it's like you can investigate any of the different parts of this adventure. Maybe you would set certain landmarks during the year where it's like you would put just like hey, summer camp lasts. How long does summer camp? What's summer? So like a summer vacation window is like 2 months. So maybe this summer camp is like, this summer camp lasts for 1 month. It's just 4 weeks long, and you have certain like events planned. You could literally just make a little four week calendar and say, okay, on day 2 X happens, on day 3 Y happens, and then that would be so, oh man, now I want to run this campaign, because it'd be such a fun way to, like, you introduce all of these different adventure hooks to your players. You know that different mysteries are going to be going on during the time, but then say at the 2 days in, that's when that mysterious murder happens, where somebody they were talking to falls from the top of the mountain, and like there's no way they could have been in 2 places at once. And that could even be like the adventure hook, is like maybe that's the impetus for the adventure. That's your inciting incident, is this murder happens. They have no idea how it could have happened. They have no idea who could have done it. And the first arc of the adventure is like figuring out maybe what happened, and maybe figuring that out involves going to all these different places, or possibly might involve going to these different places. Yeah, and then you could just space different things out. Like, okay, well, 2 weeks in, a sea monster emerges from the lake. That's going to happen 2 weeks in, no matter where they choose to investigate. And then the day before the end of camp, some other huge event is going to happen. The big bad finally makes their last move. So it's like, it doesn't matter, like, it does matter in that they can go and do all these different things, and they'll have different advantages. But it's a great place to say, like, maybe they don't have to investigate the mine, but maybe there's rumors of magical gems down in the mine that they'd be able to turn into potions or magic items or something else. And that's an incentive for, okay, well, we only have 4 weeks in which this adventure takes place. Where do we want to spend our time? How well set up are we going to be to succeed, depending on how we spend our time? And I think that's cool. I'm very excited by that. Okay, so now we've got this. Let's go ahead and name some stuff. I usually run out of time for naming, but because we started this map on a previous game, and now we're on a previous session, and now we're getting to it now, we have a little bit more time at our disposal. Oh, you know what? First, though, I lied. I want to go in and add in some brush in here, because it looks very blank. And it's desertous, but like there would be some chaparral land, if you will. So let's go ahead in here and grab our marsh block. Yeah, that looks good. And the way this works is I start with it, and then I prune away at the marsh block until I have the correct amount. Like, I don't want it to be this dense. That's too much, given it's like a desert area. But I think I'll start kind of down here. And that's nice and gray. The grasslands are also a lot easier to pare down than the forest lands, because the trees are such distinctive shapes. It's really obvious when they're overlapping with things awkwardly. but because it's grass, it's not as big a deal if it overlaps with some stuff. Okay, let's grab an eraser. Let's make it bigger than that. So I think I'm going to take it off of the little mountaintops. I guess these would maybe be more like a mesa type looking thing. I'm going to get it off the road as well. Shrink this eraser down. Too small. That's fine. Going through, casually erasing things. I'm gonna erase it, obviously, off of the stones, because we wouldn't be able to see it through those structures. Oh boy. Okay. My little wrist is getting a little sore here. Well, you know what? Let's take a stretching break. Let's just twist those wrists. Okay. Okay, so now I just want to go through and reduce the amount of it so it looks a little bit more desert-like instead of so grassy. So let's just get rid of some of these. I like the stuff down there. I think it can be a little thicker outside of the little hill areas. Got a little bit of forest hanging on there, so I should try and get rid of that in a minute. Honestly, I might be okay with that. Let me get this forest bit out of here. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's throw on some labels. I'm also going to take my headphones off. Ugh. drink some water. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in these actual labels, even though everything's called a label. We're actually going to use our labels now. Okay. These are a little small, so I'm going to try making them bigger. Let's put them at 20. Okay, that looks better. These are names I used on a different map, but I like this font. So, and it sticks out really well because it's red. So this is what we're going to use for, I believe, let's just use this for naming like our locations. So we can name like the abandoned mine. Let's call that, we could even just call it the abandoned mine. Because maybe the name is lost. Yeah. Nobody knows what the mine is called anymore. And we will also shrink that size of that so we're not having such a gap. That is, 20. Put that right there. Awesome. Let's get our layers. We've got the dead zone. Oh, you know what? We gotta like name. Oop. What? I gotta name the mountain. That's for sure. I don't want to name it after. I like the idea of it being a warlock thing instead of. Let's just call it Warlock's Bluff. Is this a bluff? What's a. Let me do a quick Google on what a bluff is. So I'm not lying, but I believe it's a type of cliff. Bluff. Synonym. Meaning. Meaning is what I meant to say. Okay, a bluff. Other than an attempt to deceive someone. Also, does it mean a cliff? Bluff. I think it does. I just don't want to misname it. Yeah, Malibu Bluffs. Small, rounded cliff. Usually overlooks a body of water. Well, I guess it's kind of rounded because it's flat. I'll take it. I'll go with it. Warlock's Bluff. Also going to change that to that 20-point gap. Maybe part of it is like you can figure out the warlock's name at some point, and that's important to the, important to the story. Okay. The Blessing Lighthouse. Haven. It's like an island, Haven Island. Islet. It's not an islet, really. I mean, there's the cove on it. Let's call it Haven Cove. I like that. That's cool. It's evocative, and we are here to be evocative. Evocative map making is the way to go. I think that go back to 20-point spread. Good. Haven Cove. We don't necessarily need to name the lighthouse. That's the other thing, is like some things aren't always, it's just that's the lighthouse on Haven Cove. Like, I feel like sometimes DMs try to overname things, and it actually makes it harder for you and your players to remember what everything is. So just calling something like, oh, that's the island's Haven Cove. What is it? What's the lighthouse called? That's just the lighthouse on Haven Cove. It's about being able to communicate that information effectively. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And gotta name this area. The little rocks. Tumbled towers. Because maybe it's like weirdly, you know when you tumble rocks and they get really smooth? Maybe it's all those kind of things. So it's like clearly very constructed. Tumbled towers. I'll put that there. This little thing is right where I don't need it to be. It's covering it. That looks nice. Okay. We've got this illusion area. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. That wild magic. I'm just gonna put wild magic. Now this is the place where it's like it's an optical illusion area where it's like you can get turned around and things look farther or closer than they are. So, what would be a good word for this? Mirage? Like mirage, because that's related to nature, I think would be good. Mirage Grove, Mirage. It's like a hollow. Well, it's not a hollow, it's like a valley. Mirage Valley? Mirage Cleft? Is it like a cleft? Because it kind of like comes through a cleft of the mountains. Let's look, valley, synonyms. I love a synonym when I'm naming things. It's all about synonyms. Hollow. Oh, I did call that. Veil. Ooh, because through the veil, like a veil, it's hard to see. Ravine. What else we got? Ravine, glen, dale, hole, gorge, rift, dell. Mirage. I feel like veil isn't clear enough because most people know. I'm gonna call it Mirage Hollow. No, because that makes me think of like a hollow in the woods. Mirage Pass. Nice. Okay. We have that stuff named. We need to name the dead area. It's like, I mean, it could just be called the Shadow of Death, because that's kind of a reference. Valley of the Shadow of Death. Graveyard. Shipyard. Valley, Shadow of Death, Shadow of... That's too on the nose. I can't call it the Shadow of Death. That's so that's like ominous in the wrong way. It's too overstated. How about dark spot? Shadow, shade. How about death shade? Ooh, how about the death shallows or the dead shallows? Yeah, that's cool. The dead shallows. Cool. Evocative. I like it. We got to name this ranch. So I definitely like it being called a ranch because ranch to me is kind of disarming. Like when I think, oh, it's a ranch, that's like a pleasant, cool place. It's a ranch. But the idea of it being ominous. So it's definitely going to be something ranch, but it's got to have a name that makes it a little unsettling. Something that makes, because it's about advancement and they have this crop, maybe something about like new or improved. Sunrise Ranch, Sunrise. Because I like the idea of it being entrepreneurial to Sunrise. That's kind of ironic that it's like, oh, Sunrise is usually something so optimistic, but the idea of like this actually being something bad. But I wonder if Sunrise is too much. Sunrise Ranch. I kind of like it. I kind of like it just being called Sunrise Ranch. But I like that too. Sunrise Ranch LLC. That adds something weird of like, oh, it's like nice, but it's a corporation? What is that? Okay, Sunrise Ranch LLC. Perfect. We only have a couple. Wow, we're already down to like a lot. Well, I mean, of just the icons, things to name. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. And we're gonna make it the stone where we're gonna name the stone where people like leave their wishes. It's like a bridge, but you go under it. What would that be? It's not a cave because it's not closed off at the other end. It's just like a bridge. Kind of like calling it the Wishing Bridge. Well, I guess Arch is better. Arch. It's a place where people leave talismans and like mementos of their summer. Arch. So something about memory. Or the past. Ooh, that'd be interesting if it was like a time travel thing. Like you could go through and like focus on a memento and travel, like get a window into like another period in time when those campers left the memento. Let's call it Past's Archway. Past's Archway. I'm not in love with it. I might change it if I was like spending more time on this, but I think it works. Past's Archway. Let's do the tree now. I like if it's like a willow or something. I know it doesn't look like a willow tree. I could make it look like a willow tree. That wouldn't be too hard. Yeah, I'll make that look like a willow tree, and I want to call it like Wily Willow. Why not? Did I spell Wiley correctly? Wiley. Like coyote? Oh, well, he doesn't spell it that way. He spells it Wile-E coyote. Oh, wily is not what I thought it meant. It means skilled at gaining an advantage. But you know what? I like it. Wily Willow. Well, let's go ahead and make this look like a willow tree. Zoom in. I'm going to just erase this whole thing. We don't need that. And we'll draw it into a willow tree with that shape. This looks very cartoonish right now, but it will be fixed. It looks kind of like a big umbrella. It's okay. Zooming in, erasing will do wonders for us. A little thin. Eraser here. That actually might actually be enough, because once we zoom out on it, oh yeah, that looks fine. Shrink it. Cool. Okay. Now we gotta name the two major things we still have to name outside of like landmarks are the camp. It looks like is the only thing we really need to name still, and then we can start naming some natural stuff like the rivers and the lake, but we'll see how far we get on that. I might call it at that point because I'm feeling a little ill. Let me go ahead and duplicate this. Now, camp. Ooh, what do we want to call it? I feel like it's definitely got to be like camp something something. Camp. What do we know? It's a place about adventure. We've set up the idea that there's like two teams of adventurers here who like compete over the course of the summer. Something about heroes, maybe? Let's see, hero synonyms. Ooh, champion. Ooh, I like the idea of champion. That implies competition. Champion, victor, conqueror. That's kind of negative. Idol, celebrity. Okay, I like champion. Camp, something champion. Camp, I don't want to say camp of champions. I mean, honestly, kind of like that. I don't mind that. Camp of champions. Camp. I like the idea of maybe like Oak Champion, and maybe like the founder was named Champion. Camp Last Champion? Camp Last Champion. I don't know why that popped in my head as like Last Champion. Camp. What's a name? Like Ash, maybe? Nature names. First names. I like Oak. Camp Ash, maybe. Camp Ash Champion. You know what? I'm overthinking it. Camp of Champions. That's what I'm going with. Camp of Champions. It implies competition. It implies heroics. I like it. And I'm just going to put it right over this central part of the map because I'm not planning to name all of that. Maybe right there. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and name our lake and maybe our forest and our mountain range, and I think we'll call it a day. So let's duplicate this. Let's name our lake. Oop, what did I duplicate for that? Where's my lake? Oh, there it is. Here. So I'm going to change the color because it's a lake, so it should be blue, but like a nice bright blue. And then I'm also going to make it bigger. Let's make it maybe 40 point font. Nope, not 4-point font. 40. 40 point font. We'll change this so there's 40 point spacing. And I also would be fine to change this to something that looks a little bit more fancy, I guess. I like that. Then we'll call it Lake question mark? Lake what? Lake. It could either tell us something about, like, implying there's even more natural land resources in it, or it could just have something to do with heroics, or maybe it's like a conflict thing, and maybe lake. Something about proving yourself could be cool. Something that implies, like, crucible, like the place of battle. Like arena. Let me look at battlefield synonyms. Or arena. Coliseum, rink, circus, park, pitch, bowl, ring, theater, stage. I like, let me see, battle. Battleground, front, theater, battle station, lists, fields, arena of war, combat zone. I kind of like Lake Arena because it sounds kind of pretty. And maybe we'll do like a double E to imply it's like maybe named after someone. Why not? I'm going to increase this font. I like maybe even 60 point font. Yeah, let's do 60 point font and we'll increase that to a 55 point space. And I think I will also shift this over slightly so it fits the shape of the lake a little bit better. Maybe shrink this down to like a 45 point spread. Maybe 40? Do we dare? This kind of starts to read like Arena Lake though. It doesn't bother me. That's fine. Okay. Let's go ahead and duplicate this and make one for the forest. We're gonna name the forest one thing. We're not gonna name it a bunch of different areas. And we'll call these the Proud Oaks. Why not? Proud Oaks. And we're going to change that to a green so it looks more like nature. And I'm going to probably actually think it looks okay right there. Let's name the mountains. Duplicate mountains. And we will make that, I get maybe like a brown. It's not going to show up very well. It might be better to do it like an orange. Probably going to make that a brighter orange. Let's call this something mountains. What do we know about them? They've got the big bluff in the middle. We've got the shorter stuff on the side. There was some sort of mine, so there was something of value. Let's call it the Trove Mountains, because like implying like treasure trove, like there's a treasure trove of stuff over there. And let's push this a little bit brighter, yellow, orange. Okay. And I'm also going to take this and put it at an angle. Kind of slip it back this way. Nice. Okay, and then we already named Warlock's Bluff. I don't think there's anything else we need to name. That's pretty much the whole dang thing. That is a map, if I do say so myself. and I'm really happy with how that looks. I really am happy with this. If I ever end up running or like a game set in like I want to do like a summer camp like mini arc or something, or like a mini campaign that lasts a couple weeks, I think that'd be this would be definitely like what I would start from, because I'm really happy with this. There's so many different areas of inspiration to take. It'd be really easy to adapt if I wanted to add or change something. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. I would definitely go to separate camp here if I had magical powers and a way to protect myself from danger. Otherwise, it might be a little bit dangerous. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm so glad to be back. Thank you guys so much for your patience while I was gone for a little bit there, just with technical difficulties and such. But thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking XP and Map Maven. Please consider subscribing to our channel on Twitch or YouTube, or join our Discord where you can share us with friends. You can find us on social media at Talking XP. I am on Twitter and on Threads, and I'm also on Instagram. You can find me at Ellen Boner. So please come and follow us. We love having you here. We also have an ongoing Curse of Strahd stream on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. You can catch it as a podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You'll see me there as well. I play the morally gray artificer Beatrice LeBeau. So please come by. Don't be a stranger. And of course, Map Maven will be next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. We will be jumping into something else exciting, possibly going back to some meme maps. We will be in Dungeon Draft, so please do come and join us. I hope to see you there. And until then, safe travels, and don't forget to bring a map so you don't get lost. Good night, everyone. Bye.